I took my mother's computer on loan and discovered a hidden directory. It contained vacation pictures, family meals, my siblings' commencement ceremony, and plenty others. I had never been asked to join. The following day, I severed ties with them. The events that followed altered my entire perspective. I, a 24-year-old man, used my mom's laptop last Tuesday since my own device failed just prior to a professional submission. She gave it to me readily, mentioning her access code remained unchanged. What I uncovered shifted all my assumptions regarding my relatives. I was searching for a connection slot when I unintentionally selected a directory named Family Recollections 2020 to 2024. The pointer lingered briefly before I accessed it, anticipating the typical assortment of shared snapshots from our collective experiences across the period. However, I ended up gazing at numerous images and recordings of a household that seemed unfamiliar to me. There appeared my mother, father, and sister during Christmas dawn, opening gifts beside a decorated pine I had no memory of. My sister wearing academic regalia at her university completion, smiling broadly while our parents stood beside her with expressions of joy. Anniversary suppers at eateries, short excursions to the hills, outdoor cookouts in our garden where I evidently was absent. The dates indicated these were not ancient images predating my birth. They were current, extremely current. A few dated back only to the previous month. I browsed through 4 years of relative assemblies, festive occasions, and festivities. 4 years of my kin maintaining an entirely independent existence, excluding me. In each picture, there existed a noticeable void where my presence ought to have been. No vacant seat, no reference to me, no sense of wishing for my attendance. Simply a full unit of 3 experiencing their ideal existence. My fingers trembled upon identifying the trend. Every significant festival I had passed solitary in my residence, assuming they were occupied or engaged elsewhere. They were in fact united. Each instance my sister claimed she could not attend my anniversary due to studies. She was commemorating another event with them. Every justification, every postponement, every possible future occasion had been false. I located recordings as well. Father delivering a speech at my sister's completion gathering, expressing his admiration for his wonderful offspring and his thankfulness for his ideal small household. Mother chuckling while distributing dessert, informing an unseen person how pleasant it felt to have solely the trio occasionally. The most painful aspect was their apparent joy. This was not a reluctant duty or coerced relative interaction. They were truly relishing the moments, sincerely content in each other's company. Excluding me, I shut the device and remained in my vehicle for 20 minutes, attempting to comprehend what I had just revealed. For years of deliberate omission. For years of deception concerning the reasons for my non-invitation. For years of assuming I belonged to a household that had evidently decided to remove me without notification. That evening, I remained awake. I continually reflected on all the occasions I had contacted my mother for updates, all the instances I had inquired about relative arrangements, all the moments they had caused me to believe I was the issue for desiring participation. I recalled my sister's completion, which I learned of via a shared acquaintance's online update. Upon questioning her, she stated it was merely a minor event without subsequent festivities. The images depicted a celebration for 50 individuals. I considered the previous Christmas, when they informed me they were maintaining a subdued approach that year, and perhaps we would organize something in the next month. The pictures revealed a complete holiday morning with hanging socks, an enormous evergreen, and what appeared to be sufficient gifts to fill a modest shop. I pondered my anniversary from the prior month, when they had all been too engaged to join me. The date on one of the hill excursion images indicated they had been together that precise weekend, trekking, and enjoying what seemed like a fantastic period. By dawn, I had reached my conclusion. I refrained from calling. I avoided messaging. I declined to seek clarifications or provide them an opportunity to deceive me once more. I restricted all 3 across all platforms, telephone, online networks, electronic mail, all of it. Subsequently, I altered my personal contact number and relocated residences within 14 days. I informed my property owner of a relative crisis, requiring an early termination of my rental agreement. In essence, it was truthful. I notified my employer of a necessity to shift locations due to private matters and requested a move to our division in a different town. They granted it without delay. I left no message. I dispatched no communication. I simply vanished from their existence in the identical manner they had caused my disappearance from theirs. For 90 days, I received no contact. A portion of me questioned whether they had even detected my absence or if they felt eased without the need for further pretexts. Then my telephone began sounding. My fresh number was private, but my mother had somehow obtained it. She dialed 17 times within a single day. Upon my failure to respond, she commenced contacting my workplace. When that proved ineffective, she appeared at my previous residence and bothered my past residents until somebody disclosed my relocation. She discovered my current location via what I presume was thorough investigation or potentially unlawful methods. I returned from employment one afternoon to discover her positioned on my entrance step, weeping. She appeared dreadful. Her locks were unclean, her attire was creased, and she possessed shadowy rings beneath her eyes as if sleepless for weeks. She began speaking instantly upon sighting me, explaining their concern, their searches in all places, their confusion over my sudden disappearance. I informed her I was aware of the images. I revealed I had viewed all of it, the entire 4 years of their concealed relative existence. I stated I knew of each falsehood, each pretext, each occasion they had opted to omit me and then fabricated reasons. Her facial expression conveyed all necessary information. It was not astonishment or bewilderment. It was the expression of an individual exposed. She attempted to justify. She claimed it began minor, merely a handful of instances when they arranged activities and overlooked inviting me. She mentioned they experienced remorse but were unsure how to address it. She indicated it had escalated and soon became a routine they could not interrupt. I questioned her reason. Why omit me? Why fabricate? Why cause me to feel like the issue for desiring membership in my own kin? She failed to provide a genuine response. She discussed how I had always differed, how I never fully aligned with their interactions, how occasionally it was simpler with just the trio. She asserted they had not intended to injure me, they had merely adapted to proceeding without me. I informed her that was precisely the concern. They had adapted to my non-presence. They had grown at ease with my lack. They had constructed a household that operated more effectively without my involvement, and then they had deceived me directly for 4 years. She implored me to return. She suggested they could remedy this, they could begin anew, they could incorporate me in all future matters. She offered to erase all the images. They would avoid any further relative assembly without me. They would correct it. I informed her it was beyond repair. You cannot reverse a sounded alarm. You cannot unview 4 years of proof that your kin are more content without you. You cannot unexperience the agony of learning that those meant to care for you without conditions have been methodically removing you from their existence and fabricating about it. She departed in tears, but she persisted. None of them ceased. My sibling arrived subsequently. She had traveled 6 hours to reach my location, and she appeared nearly as distressed as our mother. She had been sobbing, and she repeatedly expressed regret, stating she had not intended for it to progress this extensively. She disclosed the facts about its origin. Evidently, it commenced in my 2nd year of higher education when I was enduring a challenging phase, and had been, according to her, somewhat depressing during relative occasions. She mentioned I had been pessimistic and grumbling frequently, and it had caused discomfort for all. Thus, they initiated smaller assemblies without me, solely for enjoyable activities, she explained. They would still involve me in significant matters, but that boundary continually shifted. Initially, it was only informal meals. Then it included anniversary festivities, then festive days, then completions. Ultimately, I was solely involved in events such as memorials or when they required assistance from me. She admitted to feeling remorse throughout, but she had never figured out how to discuss it. She noted that whenever she contemplated informing me, excessive time had elapsed, and it would have been too uncomfortable to clarify. I inquired about her completion. She had gazed directly at me and claimed it was merely a minor event without festivities. She had embraced me and expressed a desire for my presence, but comprehended the impossibility of the journey for something insignificant. She collapsed entirely when I raised that. She admitted she had desired to invite me, but by that point the routine was so ingrained that adding me would have seemed odd. She explained that all would have posed inquiries about my sudden appearance after prolonged absence. So rather than handling that discomfort, she had elected to deceive me and allow me to miss a major milestone in her life. I informed her that was the most self-centered statement I had encountered. She had placed her own ease above having her sibling at her completion. She had opted to shield herself from uneasy queries instead of incorporating me in her kin. She pleaded for my pardon. She claimed she had been immature and foolish, that she had imitated our parents without considering the impact on me. She expressed missing me and desiring her siblings' return. I informed her she had never possessed a sibling. She had a relative she sporadically endured when suitable and omitted when not. That differs entirely. She departed, but similar to our mother, she continued efforts. My father was the final to appear, and his method was entirely distinct. He refrained from weeping or pleading or regretting. He was furious. He accused me of exaggeration and immaturity. He stated households endure difficult periods, and rather than resolving it maturely, I had fled like an adolescent. He claimed I was penalizing them for an issue that was not particularly significant. I displayed some of the images I had preserved on my device prior to restricting them. I presented the holiday dawn images, the completion festivities, the anniversary suppers, the relative excursions. I requested him to clarify how 4 years of deliberate omission was not significant. He became protective. He asserted I had been challenging during higher education, that I had introduced unfavorable vibes to relative occasions, that occasionally they simply desired calm assemblies without conflict. He claimed they had attempted to involve me, but I had consistently discovered issues to criticize. I requested precise instances. He could not supply any. I demanded an explanation for the deceptions. Why not simply inform me of non-invitation rather than inventing detailed justifications? Why cause me to believe they were occupied, or that occasions were not occurring when they were proceeding without me? He claimed they had aimed to protect my emotions. They had believed it would be simpler for me without knowledge of the omissions. I informed him that was the most patronizing remark I had heard. They had concluded I was too vulnerable for the reality. Thus, they had deceived me for 4 years and permitted me to assume I belonged to a household that had in fact eliminated me from their narrative. He accused me of excessive response. He stated all households face issues, and I was amplifying this unnecessarily. He suggested that if I simply returned, we could progress and initiate anew. I inquired if he would remove all the images, if he would admit their actions were incorrect, if he would accept accountability for 4 years of deceptions and omissions. He declared he would not eliminate household recollections merely because I was distressed about my absence from them. He asserted those were positive moments, and he would not feign their non-occurrence. That is when I comprehended he did not truly believe they had erred. He viewed me as the issue for my distress. He believed I should overcome it and appreciate their current willingness to involve me. I instructed him to depart and avoid returning. It has been half a year since I severed contact and 90 days since they located me and initiated their efforts to reclaim me. They have ceased appearing at my residence, but they persist in attempts. They have recruited additional relatives to contact me, extended kin, close associates, all advising me to pardon my kin, that existence is brief for resentments, that households argue, but they resolve matters. What they fail to grasp is that this was not an argument. This was 4 years of being methodically removed from my own kin while being deceived about it. This was learning that those who nurtured me had created an existence that operated more smoothly without my presence. I have initiated counseling to process it. My counselor has assisted me in recognizing that their actions constituted emotional mistreatment. They separated me, manipulated me regarding it, and then attempted to portray me as the issue for my distress. She has also aided me in realizing that their latest conduct, locating me, arriving unannounced, rejecting my limits, extends that mistreatment. They continue to manipulate the story and frame this around my response instead of their deeds. Recently, I received correspondence from my mother. She had somehow acquired my employment location and dispatched it there. Within, she informed me that my father had received a diagnosis of initial phase malignancy. She stated the household required unity in this trying period, and that my non-presence was complicating matters for all. She accused me of selfishness by remaining distant when my kin required me greatly. She claimed I was penalizing my father for an issue not attributable to him, and that I would lament it if an incident occurred during our separation. I experienced remorse for approximately 10 minutes. Then I recalled the images of them commemorating my anniversary weekend without me while I remained isolated in my residence. I remembered my father accusing me of overreaction and refusing to remove their positive recollections merely due to my distress over exclusion. I recalled that this mirrors the behavior of harmful households. They generate a dilemma and then attribute fault to you for not abandoning all to aid them. They render their issues your responsibility and their recovery your duty. I refrained from replying to the correspondence. 48 hours later, my sibling contacted my employment directly and managed to connect to my line. She was sobbing once more, stating that father was frightened and requesting me, that the entire household was disintegrating without me, that I must return. I informed her that if father desired conversation, he could contact me personally and express regret for 4 years of omission and deceptions. I told her that if the household was disintegrating, perhaps they should have considered that prior to dedicating 4 years to constructing a household excluding me. I stated I was not accountable for repairing their damage, and I would not sacrifice myself to maintain their comfort. She accused me of transformation, of becoming distant and harsh, that the sibling she recognized would never forsake his kin in this manner. I informed her she was correct. The sibling she recognized had vanished. He perished the day I discovered those images and comprehended his kin had maintained a concealed existence without him for 4 years. What remained was an individual who at last grasped his value and declined remnants from those who had demonstrated precisely how minimally he mattered to them. I disconnected and restricted the employment line. The reality is, I have changed now. I am no longer the individual who pleaded for participation and accepted whatever fragments of notice my kin offered. I am not the person who justified their conduct and faulted himself for inadequacy in earning their affection. I have established a fresh existence in my new location. I have formed connections who genuinely desire my presence. I have begun a relationship with someone who considers me deserving of inclusion in their activities. I have experienced the sensation of being desired rather than endured. My kin had 4 years to involve me, 4 years to be truthful with me, 4 years to regard me as significant. Instead, they elected to omit me and fabricate about it. They chose to create a household that functioned more effectively without me. Now they desire my return due to confronting a dilemma and requiring a scapegoat for their issues. They wish for me to disregard 4 years of deliberate omission because it suits them presently. But I recollect the sensation of viewing those images. I recall the devastating realization that my kin were more content without me. I remember the embarrassment of learning that I had been pleading for membership in a household that had already determined my non-belonging. I remember, and I am not returning. They selected 4 years past. Now I am selecting. Certain connections, once destroyed, cannot be restored. Certain confidence, once shattered, cannot be mended. Certain households, once they reveal their true nature, do not merit another opportunity. I am at last liberated, and I am not surrendering that for individuals who required my loss to recognize their desire for me. They can retain their images and their recollections of their ideal small unit of 3.